Okay, we're live now. First of all, thank you for everyone watching, even now live, which is always good because you can ask your questions live, and we can try to answer the best we can, or even after. It's always good to have you guys on that side. It's also wonderful to have Emma with us here today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation and to learn as much as I can about Vietnam and about her as well. So maybe we should start as I normally do. I normally give a time for you guys to present a bit about yourselves so that people get to know you a bit. But today I decided to do a different challenge. I will ask you to do that in your native tongue and then to translate it to English.
Okay, so I should introduce myself in Vietnamese first.
Exactly, if you don't mind.
Oh, cool. That's kind of awkward for me actually.
Yeah.
Ok, xin chào mọi người. Rất vui được có mặt ở đây và cùng trò chuyện với mọi người hôm nay. Và mình rất mong là mình sẽ trả lời được những câu hỏi của các bạn về Việt Nam và mong là các bạn sẽ thấy thú vị về Việt Nam và học được thêm một số điều mới về Việt Nam ngày hôm nay và mong các bạn sẽ thấy thú vị. So, hi everyone, and thank you, Ricardo, for having me today.
Thank you.
And I hope that I can answer all of the questions today somehow, and maybe you can learn something about Vietnam and feel interesting about my country, Vietnam. So I hope you all have a good time. And yeah, again, thank you for inviting me for this talk, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for joining and accepting the challenge. Um, Tell us a little bit about what you do in your day-to-day life. I think you are still studying. If you want to share a little bit about with us your interests in that field, and maybe one or two hobbies you have that you would like to share.
Okay, so I am still studying. I am finishing my master degree in crop protections, and in the future, I might be a plant pathologist. If you haven't heard about plant pathologists, we are a minor scientist in the world, but really, how to say, high impact in agriculture that we have to have you to fight against the disease which in the meal today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite important, but not a lot of people choose to do this part like me. But I'm really grateful to be able to study about that in my program. And I am a master student in Erasmus program. And yeah, that's it. So I have my bachelor degree in Vietnam, and right now I'm in Europe in the Netherlands for my thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I was in Spain for my first year of master, and then I moved to Germany for my second years. And right now, I'm in the Netherlands for my thesis,
Nice.
which is
That seems fun to get to know all these different countries. But I would ask you one thing. You talked about these diseases of the plants, and I would ask you, because we are living in a time with, especially with climate change, but also with new kinds of things that appear. What do you expect is the future of your field? Because I can see it may become challenging because especially like I said, with climate change, different things might appear, different challenges that you guys might have, and also with the transformations that we might have in the future regarding the way we feed ourselves.
yeah,
Because there are movements all around the world, um, especially in more developed countries, of course, where people are starting to change their diets. Are starting to eat less meat and focus their diets more in vegetables. So your job is really important because if we get a big problem with all the vegetables that are produced, and there's a big shortage of it, and people's diets are mostly about it, we can have a problem throughout the world to feed our population. How do you see these next future years in your field? I'm curious.
your question's quite big. Actually, I can spend the whole day talking about that,
Yeah, I can
but I
imagine.
will put it in a short answer. So it is a really big challenge for all of us about climate change, and it has been changing a lot. And right now, you see a lot of movement. Like you want to change the diet from eat a lot of meat to eat vegetable, like become vegetarian, or somebody go extreme more, like you want to be vegan, so you don't want to consume any product that from animals, like milk, cheese. And I think it's a good thing that people start to acknowledge what we are doing has a big impact on the environment, and we try to do something to help the environment. And for us, it's really important because the climate change has made a huge challenge for us with all of the new pests, new disease, new breakout. That's how to say. It you have to make more efforts to maintain the the products in the end that you have, that you try to supply for the consumers, that you try to maintain the harvest of its seasons. And right now with the climate change you face with salinity is a big problem in Vietnam, and you face some pest resistance, which is recently, like before, it's already a problem, but right now people start to know that okay, so chemical is so toxic for us, we don't want to have any residue in our food. That's why there's another movement that you don't want to be in a commercial farming, you want to be organic farming, you want to eat organic food, which is healthier and don't have chemical resistance on it, and then you feel safer.
But some people argue that to only produce organic vegetables or fruit might not be sustainable because the quantity that you produce might be a lot smaller than if you have other kinds of procedures. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true that with organic farming you don't have a like the yield is quite smaller than the commercial farming. Um, I agree, but then how to say, for the commercial farming, it also have to deal with big problem like the pest breakout and the overuse of chemical. Like for example, you have a scheme of using only three chemical at the season, but right now because of the pest, you feel that it's not sufficient anymore, and then you are spraying like 5, 10, or 15 times, like triple of the
Yeah.
time that you're allowed to. So that's why people are so skeptical. Like, I'm not sure about the food that I eat from the commercial farm if it's safe enough. So that's why people like, okay, if you have enough income that you can pay for the organic farm, organic products, so you go for that part. But then I don't know, it's the battle between. So I not good at giving any idea which one is better. But then it depends on the choice, which one that you prefer. And right now, what we are doing, that some try to improvise to mix between commercial farming, or we want to use the GMO, which is uh, which is limited in Europe in general, because Europe forbids GMO, but then in US and other country they also use GMO as one of the solution for you to reduce the chemical spraying in the field. So I don't know when Europe allow for GMO, but then I think it might be the future that GMO might help us for sustainable farming and sustainable consuming, not providing like product.
Yeah. But at the same time, I will just finish talking about this. But this is the last question. At the same time, there are some not positive rumors about GMOs. Some people don't feel comfortable eating those products. The question I ask you is if, in your opinion, they are safe to eat. I imagine so because you just recommended them.
So in the scientific way, I can say that there's no effect on your body. We have you cannot find any scientific paper saying that all GMO make you sick. You cannot find any evidence. And of course, I know that some people argue that all of that scientific research is only short term, and you need a long time to know if GMO is really bad for you. But then think about it. GMO is just a changing a part of the DNA in the whole genome. And we do it all the time because when you are a breeder, you mix between two variety together, and then you change a part in the whole genome of species. Like
Mm-hmm.
the breeder want to have some certain trait in one variety to mix with other varieties, which is in the end you change the genome. So why are you so afraid of GMO? It's just the same in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It just people want to make it bad, but for us, the scientists, we don't feel it bad. We feel some very positive aspect about it, and it's really help
Mm-hmm.
for for solving some problem in agriculture right now. And I hope that the consumer not only listen to some politician but also listen to scientists,
Mm-hmm.
because recently we feel that we haven't talked about this a lot. Like the scientists, we work in the lab, we silent, but the one who talk about it is the politicians. So they try to use the information that make you feel afraid to
Mm-hmm.
gain their trust.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, my opinion is not bad.
Okay. Okay. And it's interesting what you said. Not only with GMOs, of course, but with different things. It's always good to pay attention to what scientists say, and then to form our opinion, listening to them, and because they are the ones who are the experts on the field, so they are much closer to the right answer than the other people might be.
Yeah, like it works the same with the pesticides. Like, every year there's a certain percentage of damage, agricultural product was damaged by the pest and disease. And because we have pesticides, so then we have a much lower damage than normally we have. And in the end, we still really need pesticide because there's some insect and some disease which is really hard to treat because we still haven't found a resistant gene, or we still haven't found a good combination of natural product
Mm-hmm.
that help us to fight back the disease. So then we still need the chemical pesticides. And a lot of people's like, oh, we don't need the pesticide. Oh, this is so bad for us. But when we ask them about it, like, what is that and what is the evidence about it? They're just like, oh, I heard it in the media. I read it in the paper. I listened to these politicians. So there's like they have no idea, but they are against so much about pesticides, which is I think that is not so wise. That you should gather some information about what are they talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And pesticide, in the end, if you use a standard and then following those which recommend by the company is already enough, because what we're learning is the regulation for the pesticide, which is really strict. The dose that is you see that is overdose in the product that you eat is already uh, uh, how to say too low that can impact you. And normally, to have the product in the market, they have to do so many experiments with organism, and they need to have the evidence in the end that there's not not effect
Harmful,
on the organism.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's so many things that we are listening right now in the media, which is not really true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we should look deeper into it. Um, Starting from the last video, I did like these or that questions in the beginning to warm a little bit up. Of course, we already talked a bit, but I will still do them. These are really short questions with two options, and you just choose the one you identify the most with, and if you want, you can do a short explanation for the choice. If you don't, you can just answer them. So the first one I have here is phone call or text.
I'm sorry, can you read again?
Yeah, phone call or text.
Text.
Okay. To eat your ice cream, you prefer to do that on a cone or on a cup?
The con.
Okay. Jogging or hiking?
Hiking.
Online shopping or shopping in a store?
Online shopping or
Shopping in a store.
shopping in the storage.
Okay. Passenger or driver?
Passenger.
Okay. Tablet or computer?
Computer.
Train or plane?
Train.
Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Hot coffee.
A soup or a sandwich? You can even do with the pho, or I don't remember the name of the sandwich. The pho, it's the traditional soup of Vietnam, or one of the traditional soups.
Yeah.
And
Noodle.
there's also a sandwich, right?
Okay. So I choose soup.
The pho soup.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Dance or sing?
Dance.
Okay, nice. So maybe you should move on a little bit to talk about yourself as well, but more related to your country. And one thing I talked with you in the pre-call is that sometimes people don't know much about Vietnam, but they've heard about the war that happened like 50 years ago. So what I would like to ask you is, what do you wish people would know about your country that they don't? To remove this image of the war, because the country isn't the war, it was something that happened in the past, but the country is much more than that, of course, and has a history.
Yeah. So I think right now the image of Vietnam is like we are a very peaceful country which welcome all of the tourism from all around the world. We are really friendly, hostile, and helpful. And the Vietnamese, I don't know if on everyone knows like hardworking and also playing hard. I'm not really playing hard, but yeah, but hardworking. But in overall, I think that we are a very peaceful country. That we have a good relationship with all other countries. Like we don't want to be in a bad relationship, or we don't want to have a fight with any country. We always want to keep the peaceful connection between, even with the neighbor country like China, which is really want to take our sea area. We still like try to solve the problem in peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about other things, for example, that one question I may ask you is, why should people visit Vietnam as a tourist, for example?
Okay. So I have some reason for you. First, about the food. For me, it's one of the best food in the world.
Yeah.
Chicken. You can have anything in Vietnam. You can go to the beach. You can go to climb the mountain. You can go to explore the cave. Uh, you can go diving in the sea. You have fresh food to eat all the time. The seafood is amazing. The Vietnamese cuisine is also really good. It's not spicy as Thai food, but in a good combinations. Like everything is harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And Vietnamese people pretty good also, and we are really friendly. And I think that if you go to Vietnam, you can see a different vibe, which is really special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's maybe a country to really enjoy your time there, right? The people are nice. There's beautiful places to see, with maybe with some history behind them as well. So it might be a place for you to spend a nice couple of days, a week or so, or 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have one more thing to say is everything in Vietnam is so cheap. So I know that it's one of the cheapest country to travel in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a meal with $1, and you can have a drink with 50 cents. Like incredibly cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also an advantage, of course, because it allows more people to go there and to enjoy their time there, of course. And what does Vietnam culturally has to offer us that we don't know? Or living there, what was what were the most traditional or cultural things that you enjoyed at the time?
Okay, this quite of I'm not sure about the cultural thing because during the year we have festival, we have New Year, we have our stuff to do. But for sure that is local thing that the outlier they don't know, only us know. We have a lot of anniversary like New Year, Lunar New Year, and then we have a Lunar New Year for killing the insects. Like I don't know how to translate, but it's like this week we have a special anniversary for killing the insect.
For killing
It's
the
like just
insect?
fun, yeah, it's just funny thing that we do. Like on that day, we would eat some special thing to feel that oh, we killing the bad vibe in our body, so to make it healthier and stuff. I don't know if I giving the right vibe about it, but kind of special day for us.
But I didn't understand well what you do. Like, you don't actually kill an insect. You just pay attention to your health and eat something healthier. I don't know. I don't know if I understand well what you do.
Yeah, so the name is like killing the insect,
But
but
it's
it's not
not
actually killing the insect.
exactly. So I understood that part well. So what do you do?
Okay,
What do you do on that day?
so I am reading
Okay.
in English. So then, according to the internet, they said that on this day, farmers remove insects and pests from crops and greens, while families prepare special kinds of food and unique ceremonies.
Okay.
So, in spite of common tradition, the diversity in celebration approach is well reflected with each region in Vietnam. So then, like in every region, we have a certain type of food that we eat
Mm-hmm.
on that day. So it's come from the old time when the government they want to remove the insect and pest in the crop, but then it still remain until right now. Even we in the city, we still keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tradition that survived throughout the years.
Yeah.
Looking back from now to those times in your childhood, how was life in Vietnam during your childhood?
In my childhood, I have a quite not so peaceful childhood because I keep like going around playing with friends, but everything has been changing quite a lot in Vietnam. Like I really feel that we are developing in a fast speed that you just like go somewhere and then go back in the next year or in the next 2 years you already feel that the cities change so much
Mm-hmm.
and you start to feel that oh there's more tourism, more people, and also one of the bad things come from the fast developing is we start to have a very heavy pollution, which is annoying for not only us but also the tourism. You can like it's kind of how to say red code last year because we start to see that the air is not clean anymore and it's so polluted that is like in very high
Mm-hmm.
in a very high level of pollution, which is like not really good. When I was little I don't have to care about like, I have to wear mask when I go out, but right now if you stay in Hanoi the big city, people wear masks all the time when they go out because it's quite polluted outside and you need to protect yourself. for that.
More or less, how many people live there? Hanoi is the biggest city, right? More or less, how many people live there, so that you can understand.
The population.
Yeah, more or less. It doesn't have to be the right answer, but more or less.
So we have around 8 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Because I think, okay, I can provide you some history that before we are just in a very small area, but the last few years the government started to change and make the city a bit bigger. That they combine the old city with the neighbor regions and make it like very big city. So it might contribute to the population of the city also. But yeah, of course, it's really crowded that you can see so many high building, lots of people, traffic jam all the time, and pollution quite heavy right now.
Yeah, but is the population of Vietnam really focused on Hanoi, or there are also other dense areas in the country? And of course, there aren't only big cities in the country. There are more countryside regions. Would you like to talk a little bit about them as well?
Okay. So in Vietnam, there are two big cities. One is Hanoi and the other one is Ho Chi Minh City. Hanoi is in the north and Ho Chi Minh City is in the south. And I think Ho Chi Minh City is even crowded than Hanoi.
Okay.
And other part of Vietnam, like the countryside, is like okay, but everyone from the countryside want to be in the big city because there's the bigger opportunities.
I understand. Yeah, but from what I've seen online, searching a bit, there are beautiful landscapes. So it really caught my eye, and they seem like really nice places to visit, like you said, as a tourist, and to live as well. But of course, the economical sides of it also matter when you choose a place to live, and the job opportunities you will have. We find we kind of have a similar thing here in Portugal. People are going a lot more to Lisbon and Porto which are the biggest cities in Portugal, because of the job opportunities, especially with more uh, expert work, like you study and you take a degree in something, and the jobs for these degrees are more located in these two cities. Of course, there are one or two more cities that have good opportunities as well, but the biggest opportunities are there. So a lot of people are living there, and it's sad because we have such a beautiful country and other places to live that are not so crowded anymore, and it's a problem that we have to find a solution to find a way to also populate more other areas of the country, because it's just a way you have to find a way of shifting the economy in a way that people can find job opportunities there as well. And from what you described, I think it's the same in Vietnam.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like the big university and the good one is in the big city.
Yeah.
So more or less all of the students they want to go to the big city. And once they start to study there and they finish their degree, they want to stay to search for the job because of course in the big city you have bigger opportunities. Yeah. You have higher salary, you have a more convenient lifestyle, and in the countryside maybe you can work with the government or in some private company, but we're not as satisfied as in the big city.
I understand. Yeah. Is there? Uh, this is a funny question. I don't know if you would like to, but I will still answer the question, and then you see if you want to. But I was curious. This is like a challenge or so. If is there a traditional Vietnamese song that you remember from your childhood, and if you would like to share with us and sing a bit of that to us.
Oh, I just remember one fun fact about Vietnam, and I would like to tell you about the songs. So the New Year song in Vietnam is Happy New Year from ABBA. So like Happy New Year, Happy New Year. That is the Happy New Year song in Vietnam.
But
We don't have our traditional Happy New Year song.
and you sing it in English, or
They,
you just translated it?
no, that is the English song. That is our
Okay.
Happy New Year song, but it's in English.
Yeah, but you remember any song, maybe in Vietnamese, I don't know, that you remember hearing your mother or or your father or anyone in your family around it singing to you, and that you still remember it, or any popular song in Vietnam that you would like to share, because it's a piece of culture as well, and yeah.
You mean like the song when we were little, or the song like right now is popular in Vietnam?
I mean, there normally there are sometimes, of course, there are children's songs, but there are also different kinds of songs that are more traditional that get passed from generation to generation, and I was looking for something more around that.
Okay, give me a second
Okay, okay,
because
no problem.
there's Vietnamese songs, but I don't know which one would be the most representative. Hmm. Well, I don't know really.
Just choose one; it's indifferent. And then I would like to ask you what it was about, but you can say it after.
Okay. So when I was little, I learned a song about it's just a very good vibe song about the war that when you are in a group of 5 people with a time. So the song is like uh, năm anh em trên một chuyến xe tăng như năm bông hoa nở cùng một hồi như năm ngón tay trên một bàn tay and something others. So recently the lyric is five five guys, like 5 brothers. They are stranger, but they are like brothers
Mm-hmm.
that work in the same teams. And literally the song just saying about their solidarity between them and how good they are together. So it's kind of cheer song in the war.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, to keep the army unified in those harsh times, because, like we can understand where it's a difficult period for everyone included in it. Um, I've had a conversation in the conversation with Jiaxi from China. We
Yeah.
discussed a bit about war, especially the Second World War, which was a big conflict in which China was involved, especially against Japan. And we were discussing this, that war is something that no one likes. Neither side of the war likes what they are doing there. They are just being commanded by someone in the government, and they are convinced that they should fight the enemy. But in reality, no one likes to be there doing what they are doing. And it's really interesting and beautiful that nowadays they can talk peacefully, China and Japan, about what happened,
Mm.
and to do differently than their ancestors did, to coexist peacefully, and that's really beautiful. And I remember that from talking with Yashi.
Yeah, recently I also have a talk with one of my friends about the colonization of America in Vietnam and the French also. So we don't have any hatred toward America or France in general. Everyone love American and French. And but then somehow we still can be able to keep our tradition, like we're not talking in English or we're not talking in French. In the end we still keep our language is Vietnamese, which is surprisingly for my one of my friends that she thought that we speak French because we are French colonies in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, there's some countries in the world, like in Africa, that they were colonized by the French people, but they cannot keep their original language. But somehow we still be able to keep our language.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a thing that somehow prove that we are really proud to be Vietnamese and we want to keep our tradition and our culture.
Yeah.
And I feel amazed because as I learn every new thing about my country every time I talk with my friends. Like there's always something come up that I feel that okay, now I start to know more about my country than when I was in Vietnam,
Hmm.
which is make me feel really happy to be outside of the country to know more about my country.
Yeah, sometimes living in a place, we forget to be tourists of our own place where we live.
Yeah.
We go visit other places and learn about other places, but sometimes we forget to learn about the place where we grew up and that we are used to live in.
Yes.
And that's a
True.
thing, of course. Yeah. And like you said, culturally, the language is a super big part of culture. I realized that when I was in the Netherlands, like I was super accustomed. I've been there five months, and I was super accustomed to my life there. I've made really good friends. I would navigate easily to the places I need to go. I've studied, and I didn't have any problem studying at the university. And I remember on the last day I was in the Netherlands, I went to see a friend of mine play basketball because I promised him to, and so it wasn't really in the last day that I could because he was injured and so. And before the game, we went for a walk in the town he lived because I've never went there. So we drank a coffee together, and then we walked a little bit around the town to get to know it. And his girlfriend was asking me, "So how did you get accustomed to the country? You found it easy? Are you doing well?" And I said, "Like I told you, I'm doing great. The one thing that still doesn't make me feel at home is the language, because
Mm,
to be there and to not understand what people around you are saying, what's going on television, the ads, the advertisements in the streets around you, and not to be able to understand them, uh, keeps me not feeling totally at home.
mm-hmm.
And if I would learn that language, first of all, I would learn many things about the country because learning the language, you are getting some of the culture too. And then only then I think I will feel totally at home. So that's one of the from the experience I had. That's one of the things I would recommend if someone is thinking about living in a country for some years, not for 5 months, of course, like I was. Learn the language because it will help a lot. Even if
Yeah.
people like in the Netherlands, people speak English. Everyone speaks English, so it's easy to get along just speaking English. But to really get into the country and feel like home, I think the language is really important. And like you said, with colonized countries, many times the colonized country acquires the language of the colonizing country. With Portugal, it happened the same. Like Brazil speaks Portuguese, Angola and Mozambique speak Portuguese, which is nice
Mm-hmm.
nowadays because it's easier to communicate with them today, and it's nice that we share that language. But I also find nice, like we have it with Macau, for example. We had so Portugal owned Macau for some time, for some centuries, because China gave Macau to Portugal, and then Portugal gave Macau back to China like 30 or 40 years ago. And they speak Portuguese, but they speak Chinese as well. So, or some people speak Portuguese, are able to speak Portuguese, but they never forgot the Chinese. And I find it also nice because, like I said, language is a big portion of our culture.
Yeah. I agree. I also the same like you. I try to learn language whenever I go to, even though I will not master the language, but somehow from the language you learn about people
It's
and
true.
about the culture.
Yeah.
When I was in Japan, I learned Japanese. When I was in Spain, I learned some Spanish. When I was in Germany, I learned some German, which is completely a pain in the ass. They even have an idiom say that life is too short to learn German. And then right now I am in the Netherlands. I feel that yeah, life is too short to learn Dutch because you feel that they are the same, but then not the same. When you
yeah.
start to learn some German, you feel that okay, it's much easier to listen. But the Dutch people, they're just like a sound. I cannot feel that there's a word in the sentence. So
Yeah.
I want to learn some, but then I feel that it's quite hard for me to learn Dutch in the Netherlands,
Yeah.
but I will try to do so.
I would say that you, it's not possible in your lifetime to learn every language in the world. But of course, it is possible to learn some languages, but it requires a lot of effort,
Yeah.
especially when the languages are not similar to the ones you're used to talk. For example, for me, knowing Portuguese, it's a lot easier to learn Spanish. Of course,
Mm.
they are different, Portuguese and Spanish. Sometimes it can put you in a trap sometimes because you are thinking that you're speaking Spanish, but you're just speaking Portuguese with an accent. So you have
Yeah.
to be careful about it. But it's easier to learn because there are many words that are similar. So it's much sometimes even the verb conjugations can be similar. So it's a lot easier to learn. Uh, but it's possible to learn completely different languages, of course.
Yeah.
So the first of all is that everyone, like you and me, talk English. So it's another language that we learn. So it's possible to learn different languages. And English from Vietnamese it's completely different. And even from Portuguese has some differences, even though it's closer. Um, so we can learn different languages. And if you put the time and effort to learn German or Dutch, I think you would be able, of course. But like you said, you are just jumping from country to country, so it's impossible to learn well all the languages you're trying to. But it's nice, like you said, because we learn a lot about the country. We learn about, and if you fully understand the language, we were talking about understanding what's happening on TV and the people around you. Just being able to watch, for example, when you're in the Netherlands, Dutch TV, you are absorbing a lot of the culture of the country. Of course, I haven't been able to. I try to learn a bit of Dutch as well. I can understand one or two things. No, I can have a conversation in Dutch yet, but because I didn't put all the time I needed to learn that. But
Okay.
if I would, I think just watching Dutch TV, you could absorb a lot of the culture and listening to people talking. It's interesting. It's interesting learning the languages of the places you are in.
From the language, you can somehow understand how people in that country think.
Exactly.
Like
I have
it's
one. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have one really funny thing to say.
okay.
It's because in Dutch, Dutch is more similar to German and anything else, but it has some English influence as well, and sometimes other languages, but especially the German and a bit of English. And with German, the thing is that they can construct the sentences totally in a inverse order, like we do in the Latin languages. For example, in English, English is not Latin, of course, but in the way we construct the sentence is similar. But for example, in Spanish, like we learned, I would say something like, uh, I eat an apple. In Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
of course, not in English, but you would say in this order. So it's the subject, the action, and the object the action is referring to. And I think if I remember well, in Dutch, it's similar to German. You would say something like, I, the apple, eat. Uh, and for me,
Yes.
yeah, you say the subject, the object the action refers to, and only after the verb. Sometimes it happens. And for me, it's super unnatural. It's not natural for me at all to think in that way because for when I'm constructing a sentence in my head, I think the subject, the verb, and the which is the action, of course, and the object. And to do that in a different way, to do the subject, the object, and the verb, it's super awkward to me, and I struggle with it a lot. Of course, if I would continue to try, I would be able to, but for me, it's super awkward. I struggle with it a lot.
Yeah, me too. So, as I remember in German, they have like, I must go to school. But the way that they construct the sentence is that I must school go.
Yeah,
And only when you read the whole sentence and you know what I do. So
yeah,
it's crazy. And in Spanish, somehow you can just eliminate the subject in the beginning. Like,
yeah,
yo como una manzana.
yeah.
But you can say that como una manzana. You can
That's
just eliminate your the whole subject in the beginning.
that's true because the verb conjugations in Spanish and in Portuguese it's the same are much more complex. So, for example, in English, the when you say the verb to eat, so it's I eat, you eat, he or she eats. So two verb conjugations, eat and eats. we
Yeah.
eat, you eat, they eat. So you have two verb conjugations
Yeah.
for the six persons, for the six people in which you can conjugate the verb. In Portuguese and Spanish, you have we have one verb conjugation for each one of them.
And
So
I
that's
know.
why you sometimes can eliminate the subject, because there's no need to refer the subject, because by the way the verb is conjugated, you can immediately understand who are you referring to. That's why it happens. And in English it can happen, because if I say eat an apple, you have no idea who ate an apple. But if I say that in Portuguese or Spanish or another language, similar like Italian or so, I think Italian is, I don't know much about Italian, but I believe it's the same. But Portuguese and Spanish, I know. You can do that, because if I conjugate that on the first person of the singular, it's impossible, because it's different from anything else. It's impossible to, you know which person has done the action. So that's
Yeah.
why it happens. But it's true, it's true. It's harder to learn, of course. It's harder to learn because you have to memorize all the verb conjugations.
Yeah.
But it's nice when you are talking, because you don't have to. Sometimes you can skip the subject because we understand what you are meaning. Yeah, that's funny, but it's true. It's true completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I feel
Sorry.
interesting about languages. It change all the time. And for some certain thing that you want to say, you can change the way that you talk. Like if you want to talk with your professor, you can talk in some other way. But if you talk with your friends, you can change it. Like if you talk with your professor, you have to have the subject like I. But if you talk with your friend, you can just eliminate it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the formal way and informal way to speak a language also kind of like a bit tricky, but also interesting to know.
Which language were you referring to? Sorry.
I think in Spanish,
In
I
Spanish.
was talking about Spanish.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It depends. Yeah. See. Yeah. Sorry for. Yeah. But yeah, you are more careful with what you say when you are talking in a formal way, of course. You don't synthesize so much. You try to say things better. But yeah, definitely. I've seen we can move on, but I've seen a really interesting TED talk talking about this, the way language shapes the way you think. And she was talking about, I don't remember the name of the language, but it was like a tribe somewhere in the world, I don't remember where, in which they had their own language. And I don't, at least that was what she said. I don't know if it's truth or not, but I'm trying to believe that they don't have the words for left or right or front and back. So when they are referring to a location, they always use the coordinates like north, south,
Yeah.
northeast, and that can be awkward to us, because if they want to say something is on the right, they will not use the word right. They will use the coordinate, the direction related to. But she said that that gave them a real good orientation sense that we sometimes don't believe that humans have. For us, it's difficult to know. I have no idea where I am now. Where is the north? I have no idea. It can be in any of these
Yeah.
directions. I don't know. I can use the sun as a reference where it starts, where it
Yeah.
rises, and where it falls. But apart from that, I have no idea. But at, 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 at least that's was what she said. They have a much better perception of it because of the way they communicate. And another thing she said, and that I could more or less test if it was true or not, is that there are some languages that have the feminine and the masculine words. English doesn't, but for example, we were talking about Spanish and German, which were the examples she gave,
Yeah.
have these words, the masculine and the feminine. And she was saying that the words that are masculine in these languages, we tend to describe them as strong. As for example, she gave the example of a breach. If someone, I think the breach in Spanish, I think that's what she said, is masculine. So they tend to describe the breach as strong and robust. But in German, I think the breach is feminine. I'm sorry if I'm switching the languages, but it's still the example. If the word is feminine, you tend to describe, for example, the breach as elegant or beautiful.
Mm.
And I compared that, I don't know if that's completely true, but I could test that, because I could imagine in Portuguese, because Portuguese has these masculine and feminine words as well. And bridge is pont, which is a pont, which is a feminine word basically. Um, and being a feminine word, and I thought how I would describe a bridge. I would describe a bridge as being beautiful, and it matches with what she said. So I don't know if it's completely true, but it matches. And
Yeah.
I found it wonderful, and to see the way the language we use can shape our thinking. That's astonishing.
Yes. So when I was in the past, I also have a course about languages, and it amazed me also. Like you talk that in some languages that they use direction a lot, and in the end, the people they have a very rude sense in the direction.
Yeah.
So in the class, I also learn in some languages that how to say they are enabled to say different kind of blue. So then the people in that languages they can really differentiate different blue. But she has another example of one language that they don't have word for blue and green. Also, in the end, they are really bad to say, oh, which one is blue and which one is green, because for them they are the same. So,
Yeah.
so when you learn the language, you learn how it shapes the mind of the people in that country, and somehow it's like it's always amaze you
Yeah.
somehow. Like when I learned German, they ask the time. It's not like what time is it? They ask how late it is.
Yeah.
So the some of the character of the German is really punctual at time.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
they always ask you like how late it is. Like I am in on time. It's like what? Why are you not asking like what time is it? But instead you ask how late am I?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it makes me feel so funny.
Yeah, it's super funny. I didn't know that as well, and it's super interesting. And from what I heard about people who lived in Germany, it's definitely like that. They are really respectful about everyone's time.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. And yeah, like you said, the way we use the words really shapes the way we think, and that's an interesting example. We have here someone watching Kankerstick saying that north is here. I don't know where he is, but I suppose he's right. Um, but thank you for commenting. But moving on, I have a funny question to you, which is like,
Yeah.
what can someone like me, that I have never been in Vietnam, I don't know much or almost nothing about Vietnam, do in Vietnam to accidentally offend someone?
To offend someone.
Yeah, accidentally.
You mean like a kind of act that can offend the others?
Yeah, I would sometimes even try to be respectful and try to engage with the person, but accidentally I would offend that person. Sometimes it can happen through cultural differences. I remember that for us in the Western, at least in Europe, is like that, and I believe in the America as well. When we do something, I'm sorry for the people that it isn't like this, but when I do something like this, I'm saying that something is good or is okay. But I know some Arabic countries in which this is something really bad, like you are sending that person to really bad place or calling names to that person. So I
Uh,
was asking something like that.
so if you come to Vietnam and somebody invited you for dinner, just how to say, just come to the dinner because that's how we show you our friendship. And in the dinner, like for sure that you would use chopstick,
Okay.
and then don't put the chopstick like this
Okay.
because it's like the insane. It makes you have the image of the incense, and it's not good when the incense is on the table when you are eating. It's like for dead people,
Okay.
So just don't put the chopstick in these positions because it's mean very bad meaning.
So you should bend it a little.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other thing, yeah, we have a lot of things with chopstick. Like if you want to give food to the others that you use chopstick, don't put two chopsticks together. So if you want to give other people food, just put it directly into the bowl. Don't. don't let them use their chopstick to pick your food, or don't use your chopstick to pick other people's food.
Okay, so
That's
you
it
should.
on the chopstick.
Yeah, I
So it's
understand.
the meaning is like unlucky. Just that.
Interesting. It's really interesting. Um, what if you would offer a gift to a foreigner like me or everyone else that is not from Vietnam, a foreigner, someone that doesn't live in Vietnam, to remind them about your country? What gift would it be?
To remind about my country,
Yeah.
the food, the Vietnamese noodle pho is one of the best thing.
Yeah. So you would bring some food for that person to taste.
Yeah, so what I usually do with my friends in Germany or in Spain, that I will cook the noodle one day and invite 5 or 6 people that come to my house and eat with me. It can be the spring roll, it can be the Vietnamese noodles, but like normally I cook the Vietnamese food for them so then they can really feel the vibe of the Vietnamese food,
Mm-hmm.
and they enjoy it all the time. So I'm quite happy that they enjoy the food that I cooked.
Yeah, I
At
understand.
least in Vietnam, my mom was like not really believe that I can cook.
No, it's a nice way as well to get in touch with the country. I remember, just two quick stories. When I was in the Netherlands, I was there. Yeah, it was my second week there, I believe, and I've met these really good friends that I stayed with them throughout my whole 5 months there. And since the beginning, they were super friendly in the way they received me. So I had just met them in that week, and one of them was having a party at home celebrating. Um, I think it was an anniversary of the date she moved to that house. I think it was something like that. And she was having a celebration with family and friends. And she had just met me that week, I believe, but she still invited me to go. And so I really enjoyed her friendship in doing so.
Yeah.
And I tried, so I was the guy that came from Portugal, so I tried to do something traditional from Portugal uh, to show my appreciation, of course, and for them to taste something from Portugal, like you just mentioned. The same thing as you did with the noodles. And I made sweet rice. It's the name. It's a dessert. So it's the direct translation to Portuguese. It's sweet rice. Um, and I had never made that. So normally my grandmas do that, not me.
Mhm.
But I just called home, asked for the recipe, and I tried to do that myself. I believe that in the end it was close to what it was supposed to be. And yeah, I gave it to them and they enjoyed it a lot. I liked that they enjoyed it. It was nice. And the other thing I was trying to say, when I got back to Portugal, I thought about bringing a souvenir to my family and friends. And I actually brought them cookies from Dutch cookies, which are called, stroopwafels, which are a traditional cookie from the Netherlands. And that's the souvenir I chose to bring them because, yeah, that's what I felt was the best thing to bring and to give them a bit of the taste of being in the Netherlands. And they enjoyed it a lot, so it was a good choice. So I found it funny that you chose food as the gift to give.
Yeah, for me, foods, I always really appreciate food and I spend time to enjoy the food also. Yeah.
Okay, I have a funny game here for you, I believe. Basically, the idea is I will say you a letter, and then you can answer the first thing that comes to your mind with that letter as the first letter,
Yeah.
related to your country or anything you would like to share.
Okay.
You understood what I meant? Yeah. So the first letter I have here it's H.
H. Hội An. It's another it's one city in the central Vietnam, which is super beautiful and is like a hotspot for tourist attraction. But I love the city; it's so beautiful, and the people is amazing. The city was next to the beach, and then you can really have a one day go to an island near to the city and have a dive to see the um how do you call
The
the
sunset?
thing that under the sea?
Oh, the corals.
Yeah, the coral reef.
Yeah,
It was really nice.
nice. Seems fun. With the B.
Which letter?
B.
B.
Yeah.
B. Bánh mì is a famous Vietnamese hamburger that I think is you can find it anywhere and with any price. You can have bánh mì with 50 cents, but you can have bánh mì with $2.
Mm-hmm.
It's variety, but still delicious at the same time. It's amazing, and it was how to say awarded as the most delicious hamburger in the world.
Nice. That seems nice to taste. With an L.
L
Yeah.
L. Uh, Lý Sơn is an island also from the central Vietnam, but you have to go a little bit further to outside in the sea, and that is one of the best trip ever in my 25 years.
Oh.
So I went to that island when I was 18, and I traveled with one of my best friend and a big brothers. It was so amazing. Everything so clear. The water is crystal clear, blue, and the people in the island is super friendly. And I went there in the summer, and then it's also in the um, water lemon seasons. They even gave me free 2 water lemon when we were just walking and saw them just transporting the water lemon that they just harvest in the during that day
Yeah.
to the boat. It was so delicious, and people was like smile at you all the time. And we stay in one hotel, and next to the hotel is one restaurant, which is super delicious. Imagine that when you order a grilled chicken
Yeah.
and the chef just goes in the back and take one alive chicken and make it for you. So like normally you have to wait 20 minutes to
Yeah.
have the chicken, but it's super fresh and delicious. And the owner of the shop even offered us like if we want to take the motorbike to travel around the island, he can borrow us. So like everyone was super kind, friendly. The food is super delicious and fresh, and the landscape is amazing. So yeah, I will put it like in one of the top place on my list that I would like to travel again.
Yeah. Seems like a wonderful time you had. And I think you talked about motorbikes. I think I've read that motorbikes are quite a thing in Vietnam.
Yes, it's like a signature, I think. So it's like you if you I feel a little bit funny when I was in Vietnam and see all of the foreigner who visit us and check out the camera when we are in the rush hour, which is like so many motorbike on the street, and then they just feel amazing. Oh my god, so many motorbike. And
Yeah.
for us it's like a very normal thing, but once I'm here, I understand because you hardly see any motorbike on the street. Most of the people will go by car,
Yeah.
and it's also not that crowded. But in Vietnam, imagine that you see everyone riding on a motorbike during the rush hour,
Yeah.
and it's like hundreds, thousands of the vehicle on the street. And yeah, I think it's just funny, not amazing but funny to see how much that how many motorbike that we have in Vietnam.
Yeah, I think if I would go there and haven't heard of it before, I would be really surprised. I would. You talked about the Netherlands. I would compare it maybe with the bikes in the Netherlands
Mm,
because they also
yeah,
have that strong culture about the bikes. I would maybe compare your motorbikes culture with their bike culture, even though of course it's completely different. The image and the sounds, of course. But yeah, I found it funny. With the P, with the P letter.
with the what?
P.
V.
P.
P.
As peach. Yeah.
Ah, V? I thought that I just
No, no.
spoke.
P. As. Um,
P, pie?
yeah, as pie. Yeah.
Ah, okay. P. Oh, okay. Another destination that you should go also is named Phú Quốc Island. So it's located in the south of Vietnam. It's a beautiful island and it has amazing seafood. It's one of the most delicious seafood that I ever eat. It's so fresh that it's kind of it's just feel that they just catch it in the sea and make the food for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel the sweetness, but it's like from the freshness. It's really good the food there. And during the time that I traveled there, the weather was not so good, but otherwise, if you lucky and have a good weather, it's also super beautiful and amazing place to that's really worth to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Phu Quoc Island.
Yeah. Nice. And finally, the last one with an E.
E.
Yeah.
E. E is Emma. It's my name.
Yeah.
I'm from Vietnam, so if you go to Vietnam, you can see a lot of people like me, super friendly and very helpful and beautiful. So yeah, why not come to visit Vietnam and see how beautiful we are? Not only our country, but also our people.
Yeah. Get to know the people. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to
Yeah.
not. Don't be shy to meet the locals and to have a chat with them.
Yes. And then if you have a chat with them, maybe they invite you for dinner. A lot of
Interesting.
foreigners have that experience that the Vietnamese, because like I saw one video on YouTube. These two guys just visit in Hanoi, and then there was like sitting standing in the middle of the street try to photograph the motorbike on the street. So there's one old guy that came to see them and then start to talk with them, and in the end he invited them to his house. And it's not really for dinner, but he just want to introduce about his house for them, because he's like a old stuff collector, so he collect old thing, and he just want to introduce his collection to them and somehow
Interesting.
invite them for some drinks. It was kind of random but funny.
Yeah, and
But I think
friendly as
if
well.
you experience, you would feel really, how to say, memorable.
Do you usually do that when we can move on already to different countries you visited? I think you've traveled a lot from where I know, visited a lot of countries. Do you usually do that to approach locals there and try to get to know them and with that a bit of the culture of the country you're in?
I actually want to have friends like local.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would make friends with some young student that I study with, or I meet them during some activities. But for like just come and approach them suddenly, I don't think it's a very nice thing to do and wise thing to do, because they may think that, oh, this crazy Asian girl, why they approach me so weird. So normally I don't do that, but I will try to have some local friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good experience. But I was asking this to you because Nihar, when I had on the second episode Nihar from India, it's something that he likes to do. He likes to approach locals and to engage with them. And he has some funny stories regarding that. I've already talked about this in that video and in other videos, so if you like, you can have a look on that.
Okay.
But it is something he likes to do to approach locals, and yeah, and he learns a lot from them and has a good some good experiences with that approach. And it's funny what you said, that if you would do that, people would think, oh, who is this strange girl from Asia approaching me? But I'm sure there are some people that would, but there are some people that wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so it's normally I can do the same, to be shy to approach people. I do that with people from my own country living here. So in the out you can in other countries you can be shy as well. We have some kind of shyness of approaching random people on the streets. But maybe we shouldn't be at least so shy. We should sometimes, when it's appropriate, when the opportunity arises, to open ourselves to those people and to engage. Because that's why we get to know new people. That's why we get to learn new things by talking with them. And that's I've realized that as well when I traveled to the Netherlands. I was really happy of meeting new people and to get to know them and learn from them. And then I just realized that I could do exactly the same in my own country. I just don't do because I already have my group of friends, so I'm comfortable, so I don't need to know anyone else. But like before the call started, we were saying that we want to avoid a boring life, and to meet new people, it's a great way of being excited, because it's exciting to meet new people and to learn a bit about them and their life experiences. So I found it funny when you referred to that. What was the most interesting place you've ever visited?
In
Especially,
Vietnam,
especially outside Vietnam, because we already talked a lot about Vietnam.
I think it's Japan. Well, what because it's completely a different vibe, and the time when I was there, I have amazing time with the friend that I made there because we are international program, so we have all like Thai, Laos, Cambodian, Malaysian, Brunei. So in the end, we end up in an international group, which is we are really, how to say, good together.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, we will cook together, we drink together, and in the group that nobody will use phone when we are together. So
Oh,
imagine that
yeah.
nobody will throw out their phone and start to chat and do other things. So we just sit together and do our stuff together and just forget about the time. And then I have amazing time there, and then I did some traveling in Japan also, which is super nice. I went to Osaka and Kyoto, and Kyoto is amazing, beautiful, and yeah, I think it's one of the best time that I have outside of my country. Which is like I would like to go back again to do some other thing that I still haven't done yet, like go to onsen or go to Fuji. Fuji-Q
Mm.
is a theme park in Japan that they hold a lot of UNESCO, no, not UNESCO, like Guinness record, like the fastest, the highest, the longest roller coaster, which is that I really want to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you said Fuji, I think you were talking about the Mount Fuji.
Yeah, so Fuji-Q is the theme park next to Fuji Mountain.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I have an interesting question here prepared. That is, what would you say are the biggest differences between the Emma that had never left Vietnam and today's Emma?
Oh, really different, super different. First, it's like my mindset. So when I was in Vietnam, it's a little bit conservative. Imagine that if I'm in Vietnam, to really get to know a guy, it will take months, like literally months, because you need time to feel good to talk with that guy, and then until the moment that you feel that okay, now I'm feel good to hang out with him, and to hang out with him, you need to have a couple of dinners together, and after a couple of dinners together, and you start to, how to say, to spend more time together, and then from that it takes months until you know that, oh, I really want to be with that guy.
Yeah.
But here I take lesser time. Quicker. So like, yeah, I get to know a guy when I was traveling, because like we have a very nice talk, and then after that we keep in contact, and we be friends, and we can be more than friends, like that. So then my mindset is kind of like really changed from a very conservative too open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I feel that I know about my country more than I do before.
Okay.
That I appreciate my country a lot more. Like in Vietnam, everybody talking about like, the government they are doing bad and stuff. You start to complain, but once you outside the country, you start to appreciate the value of your country more. That I am really proud to say everyone that hey, I'm Emma, I'm Vietnamese. It's the first thing that I say to people when I introduce myself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm really proud to be a Vietnamese. Mm, and also, I start to feel that I appreciate my family more. Like
Mm-hmm.
in Vietnam, I stay with my mom and my dad, and then somehow I start to feel annoyed with my mom and dad because they keep talking all the time. But when I'm here, I start to feel that oh, I want to talk with them. I want to update their situation and stuff. Like I care about them more, and I know that the family value is really important to me, and not me in the past. In the past, I was like, okay, family, and I just want to do my thing. I want to hang out with my friends. But right now, what I do is I want to be with my family, to do stuff with my family,
Mm-hmm.
to travel with my family, to have dinner with my family. So it's kind of changed in me quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say. And then my cooking skill improve.
Yeah.
And if my mom was like, imagine before she even said that if I am about to marry, she will register me for a cooking class. Imagine.
Yeah.
Right now, when she see me baking stuff and cooking stuff, she's like, okay, now you know how to cook. And was like, yes. So 2 years outside of the country teach me that I have to cook good food for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So then right now I can declare that yeah, maybe I don't need to register for a cooking class anymore.
Yeah. No, cooking is like a skill like any other that needs to be developed, but you can develop it. So uh, when we start living for ourselves, we feel more the need of doing that, and it's just starting to do that. You'll make mistakes, but you'll learn and get better.
Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe more, but right now I still haven't think about other stuff yet.
Mm-hmm. You said an interesting thing that I think may generalize to other countries because you said that you are now more curious and proud and care more about your country than you did there. And I've heard Portuguese people that live somewhere else now that have the same feeling. Like to sometimes we tend to criticize some things about our country when we're here, but being outside really gets you to value the good things that you have. Then when you're there, you don't appreciate because you
Yeah.
are accustomed to it. But being outside, you miss the time with your family there. You miss the food. You miss we here in Portugal the sun. You miss the beaches. You miss the good weather, the nature. You start to miss everything. The language is something even with me it happened when I was in the Netherlands when I started to miss to listen and to read Portuguese. I would still read something, but to listen to Portuguese around me, I started to miss it a bit. And it's funny. It's funny that that happens. We tend to not value too much the things we take for granted,
Yeah.
and by traveling, we start to not take for granted those things anymore.
Yeah, it's true. Like when I stay only in Vietnam, I criticize the government. But when I'm here, people here also criticize about the government.
Yeah.
And then you start to know something that is not really good about the country that you are staying now. And then you realize that every government is bad. So we should not really criticize that much about my government. And
Yeah.
somehow I think it's the same situation everywhere, not only in Vietnam. So that's why I feel that yeah, maybe they are doing their best.
Yeah, no system is perfect, so there are always things to make better. And talking about government, it's people tend to focus on the negative sides. Of course, there would be positive sides, but people focus more on what is still to be done. But yeah, that's true. We should value more what we have. Of course, we can hope for more and we can criticize what's wrong, but it's also good to recognize what's good already. Um, we are already, I believe, with 1 hour something, yeah, 1 hour and 20. So we are getting to the business end of our call. But I would still like to ask you two more questions. First of all, I would like you to give a final message that you would like to share with the people watching. And then I have an interesting question as the final question for you. But first, the message that you would like to share with people.
Okay. So I would like to have one message to everyone. If you travel to Vietnam, and I very welcome you because we are beautiful and people is friendly and amazing. But if you travel in Vietnam, don't just go to a restaurant. Just try to sit on the street and eat street food because it's the best. It's cheap and also good quality. The best food is street food. Don't just go to a restaurant, please. Because I know some of my friends that they just go to a restaurant for food, and I was like, what? So you never been in Vietnam because you haven't tried street food? Because street food is the signature of Vietnam, and please don't miss street food. Okay?
Okay. Seems like a wise advice, especially because you've been there, so you know better than anyone what you're saying. But yeah, for the last question, this is a question I never asked before here, but if I find it a good one, maybe I will repeat this in the end of each video. But let's see. The question is, what would your really old self, like when you're really old, if you're that person of yours, when you are that age, could talk with yourself today, what do you think that person, you in a really distant future, really old, would say to yourself, to your current version of you?
Okay. My old person,
Yeah,
like no, my older version when I'm
yeah,
getting like 80 or 90s, right?
exactly.
Okay. I just want to say to myself in the present that you are doing your best, you having your good time of your life, and please try to enjoy every moment of your life. Don't go straight every time
Yeah,
because life is too short to stress all the time.
to enjoy the good things that there are there, and to
Yeah.
be calm that everything in the end will work out and problems will fade away.
Yes.
Yeah, seems nice, like a nice message to end. I would like to thank you very much for your kindness and for joining me doing this video. Uh, I love that everyone that accepted to do these videos I find to be people I identify a lot with, and that I respect a lot for the things of yourselves that you share here with all of us. And all of you are really friendly, really open, share some really good values and really good life experiences as well. So I love that I'm having the opportunity to just having a chat with you guys. It's wonderful. So I would like to thank you very much, and I would like everyone else watching to thank very much everyone else watching as well. And I hope that you guys find it funny, useful, curious to listen to these conversations. At least I do. I hope you do as well. And yeah, like I used to say, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. We'll try our best to answer them. And next week, I'll come back with someone from a new country. And yeah, this is the really good message of the channel, to get to know these different cultures. It's always fun and interesting to learn about them, and making friends all around the world. So thank you, Emma. Uh,
Thank you, Ricardo, for
uh,
having me.
Thank you.
So, guys, subscribe his channel and his Instagram also. Don't miss any talk, and I think it's gonna be very interesting for the next coming countries. Don't miss it.
Thank you very much,
Next
Emma.
week, okay?
So goodbye, guys. I'll see you around. And yeah, till next week. Bye.
Bye guys, peace.